Okay, so hello and welcome everybody. And thank you first and foremost for taking the time to join us tonight. It is really appreciated in what is, as usual, a really busy time in the grassroots calendar. So for those of you that haven't joined us for a club update meeting before, these meetings are all about keeping you as clubs fully up to date in all club matters, to explore club development areas and to empower clubs to be the best places that they can be. It is a bit more of a traditional one tonight, if I'm being honest. So it's less development and maybe less exploring and more sharing of information, a little bit like when we used to be sat here during COVID. But if you are interested in our upcoming events, we've got an exciting programme lined up ahead for the rest of the season, and they can all be booked from the same place you went to book this one. So on the call tonight, you've got myself, Tom Measham, Senior Football Development Officer, and the main focus within my role is around clubs. And Claire will be with me also, who is our designated safeguarding officer. And actually, Giuseppe has jumped on. A lot of you will have probably. I'm just going to get the mute going again there. Probably will have spoken to Giuseppe over the last kind of 3 months while he's been in post. He's normally the person replying to you about your day-to-day stuff. So he's come on today to have a look at the meeting. So I'll start with the usual updates of what's been going on. We've got a couple of, one page here with a few bits on, and then we've got some more in-depth ones next. So first and foremost, the Grassroots Awards that we hosted 2 and a bit weeks ago, which was an extremely interesting night in terms of the stories shared and the experiences, and getting to hear kind of firsthand about all the different winners that we had within the county. So some, like I said, some amazing experiences, and you may see some people you know on those slides. But it was a really, really good night with some excellent live music as well over at Rotherham United. A couple of weeks ago also, we travelled down to Wembley for the FA Recognition Awards, or the County FA Recognition Awards. So if you can see on the photo there, Leon and Molly were both nominated for their work on the Respect Programme and the Young Activators Programme, respectively. They didn't win, but they were winners to us just for getting nominated. But it's great to see work happening in the local area being recognised at a national level. We've also had a huge turnout in the first quarter of the season in terms of coach CPD attendances. So our autumn series and league support series supporting non-qualified not BT Playmaker anymore, EE Playmaker, and Introduction to Coaching Football Coaches had over 100 attendances in the first quarter of the season. So we're really pleased that the coaches within this county are accessing our free face-to-face coach support. And as usual, there's events happening all the time, and signpost your coaches to our coach support page. Finally, on this page, the County FA achieved the equality standard in sport. I was going to use the word ball, but I'm not going to go into depth around what that means. But it's some fantastic work from my colleague Julie Callaghan to ensure that the county has achieved that equality standard. So we're really, really pleased with that as a county. Next up, couple of big updates here. So first and foremost, this one is around grass pitches. So I'm just going to click that off. Around grass pitches, so pitch power and the grass pitch maintenance funding. For those of you that don't know, Pitch Power is an app that allows you to assess the grass pitches you play on. It's really simple. It's quick and easy to use, and I know we say that about a lot of FA systems, but this app is. It guides you through how to assess your pitch, and then a report is generated for you from the GMA, the Grounds Maintenance Association. So it gives you a detailed report into the current state of your pitch, and also what work can be done to either maintain it if it's a good pitch and improve it if it needs improving. Now, if you're already doing work at your site, you can use that to help improve your pitch or maintain it, as we said. But the most important aspect of Pitch Power is it's your gateway to accessing the grass pitch maintenance funding. And this is a really, really good funding opportunity from the Football Foundation. So it's a tapered 6-year grant aimed at either sustaining or improving the state of your grass pitches. What does tapered mean? It means that the Football Foundation will pay a reduced percentage of the initial grant value, every 2 years, with the club making up the difference. So for example, if you have an 11v11 pitch that needs improvement, the grant per year is 3,200. That is what you receive in years 1 and 2. In years 3 and 4, it's 2,133. And in years 5 and 6, it's 1,067. So that's how the grant is structured. If you have one pitch, that's what it would look like. If you have 10 pitches, it would obviously be 10 times that figure. So I don't want to seem biased because I work on this, but this is probably the best piece of funding been made available from the Football Foundation in terms of accessibility and also seeing the impacts. The best thing about it is you don't need to own the site that you use. You don't need to have a long-term uninterrupted lease to access this funding, which a lot of the other foundation stuff you're prohibited from accessing if you don't have that. So this is a really, really good tool. If you're on a single pitch site, a multi-pitch site, you're a club that want to improve or maintain the pitch that you're using, speak to me or Leon about this. We're more than happy to come out and support you to do your initial assessment and walk you through it and explain to you the full kind of program around the grass pitch maintenance funding. But I can't say it enough, especially if you are already as a club spending money on any form of maintenance of your pitches. I don't like to use the word no-brainer, but this funding is almost in that category of in terms of you should be really looking at this as an option for your club. Okay, and like I said, even the assessments, I got soaked the other day, but even then it was easy. I've got a massive blister actually from my trip to Tick Hill the other day with their 14 pitches. But if I can do it, anyone can do it, is what I'd say on that. So please do get in touch with me or Leon regarding grass pitch maintenance funding, and we'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. I'm going to hand over to Claire for this bit to update you on the shared service that we are part of now.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Good evening. A few people may already have experienced some of the shared service work. We've joined this. It's a support service of safeguarding. It's specifically focusing on improving our safeguarding compliance. This is across the board from team officials, refs and club welfare officers. Specific compliance is around DBS, the Safeguarding Children course and the Welfare Officer course. All of these things are now measured by the FA, and the shared service will get in touch with people to let them know where they're not compliant. The aim ultimately is that we get 100% compliance across the board. That is quite difficult, particularly with DBSs, because they can run out and then you know, they can get stuck, as lots of welfare officers know, and the frustration of DBS is getting stuck at a certain stage. But we can get as close to it as feasible. So the shared service sends out a series of emails to prompt people to get their DBS started. And they'll send them out 3 weeks before, they'll send it out a week before, on the day after, and continue to send these emails out up to 21 days beyond the expiry date of the DBS. At that point, if the person has made no attempt whatsoever to do a DBS, then the recommendation is that we suspend the whole team. I've done this now since we started with this 3 weeks ago. I have suspended 4 teams. And that suspension means that they are suspended from all football activity, training and matches until such times as they sort out that issue around the DBS. So basically they get the application started and paid for. Once I'd suspended the teams, actually people very quickly realised that, that some of the issues they've been having we were able to iron out fairly smoothly, and those suspensions were lifted in time for the games at the weekend. But obviously we don't want you to be in that position. We don't want to be putting suspensions on you. We don't want to give you all the stress and anxiety that that brings, as well, of having to get everything sorted out last minute. So just make sure you're on top of your compliance, make sure you're on top of your DBSs, and also the Safeguarding Children course. And just to mention on that, that is being measured now. Next season, when we come to affiliation, if a team official doesn't have the Safeguarding Children course, the team won't be able to affiliate with that official. So the same as it is for DBS at the moment, DBS and Safeguarding Children course that a team official needs to have in order to affiliate. So get all of that in place now. Don't be struggling getting it all done in June and July when you've come to the point of affiliation. Get it all in get your ducks in a row, and then everybody will be happy once we get to affiliation time.
Thank you, Claire. Just to add on to top of that, I'll do a little bit on the club portal in a moment, just around kind of getting the best out of it and using that to get ahead of any expirations. The system's so quick and intuitive now that you can get that really quickly off the system. And just to add in regarding safeguarding children from next year, I'm not going to spend any time on it, but the affiliation process will be different next year. So where Claire mentioned there about getting your ducks in a row, but it can be quite stressful when certain individuals aren't maybe doing what you're asking them to do, especially if you are a welfare officer, is that you'll be able to affiliate team by team, which will take the stress away from John Smith or Jane Smith will not sort their DBS out and the whole club is waiting. That won't happen from next year. So that's one benefit, although we are saying there will be an added layer of requirement, is that individuals will not block your entire club from affiliating. And the system, although, like I said, no time on it, is so much better for you moving forward in terms of affiliating. But we'll get on to the good stuff now. So on to tonight's focus, England Football Accreditation Revalidation. Now, I've already timed myself today. I'm not planning on keeping you here all night, and I know I say that on all of these meetings. I think I can get through what I need to in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Then that'll leave us as much time as we need to answer questions. I can jump on to your club portal if you need support in that area. So any questions throughout, please do pop them in the chat or put your hand up. And there'll be loads of time at the end to answer your specific scenarios and any problems or issues that you may be having, and any feedback that you've got as well. So what we'll be covering, the revalidation requirements, how to complete your revalidation and getting the best out of the club portal. I think it's important to say here straight away that accreditation is the new name for Charter Standard. I assume that most people on this call, you're fully comfortable with that, but it's important to say. And the revalidation is the old annual health check. Pretty much the same thing, just rebranded. So that's what we're dealing with at this time. I know there has been over the last 18 months some confusion at times where affiliation and accreditation get blurred. Affiliation is your sanction to play. It's the thing we do at the start of every season. Your accreditation is your Charter Standard in newspeak. So first and foremost, a huge thank you to you. I'm assuming that every club on here are accredited clubs. We may have a few that aren't, that are on to see the process, as it's the same for applying. But as our accredited clubs, you deliver a huge percentage of the football in our grassroots football community in this county. So we really appreciate not only the work and the time, but the commitment as well that goes in to running your clubs day to day, but run them at a level that's above and beyond the minimum requirements, because the difference that you make within this county, and like we said, the percentage of football, especially in the youth game, that is played in accredited clubs is extremely high. So when you're accredited, you're not just part of it, you're the beating heart of it. And that's the big slogan for this. We really, really appreciate the time and effort that goes into running your clubs and running them to the top level that you do. So why does accreditation exist? Essentially, it's the dream of creating a vibrant national league and club network that can deliver inclusive local football within our communities. That's what it's all about. Accredited clubs create the best opportunities for players and coaches and volunteers to enjoy the beautiful game by setting high standards on and off the pitch. One of my favourite slogans, it's my old boss used to say it all the time, we don't apologise for those high standards. So I'm gonna set our stall out here. We don't apologise for those standards being high, because like I said, we can see the benefits day in, day out of the accredited club network that we've got. So those high standards are driving that. They are driving the increase in the number of players on all three pathways within our county. We do understand that being accredited does take a bit more time and a bit more care, but we firmly believe that the benefits outweigh the negatives, if there are any negatives. I can't see any, but if you believe there's any negatives, we firmly believe that the benefits outweigh that. And we're also extremely proud to have so many accredited clubs in this county. So positive power of accreditation. Coaches and volunteers within accredited clubs are more likely to stay in the game and create positive experiences for players. Onto the pathways. I'm not going to read through this slide, but you'll get the slide deck after, so I wanted to include it because it's got a bit of information. It's important to acknowledge straight away, because I've had emails already saying we're really keen to stay at 2 or really keen to stay at 3 or move up. The stars as they are not a representation of how good your club is. They're a representation of the pathway that your club offers. So it's not a prestige thing, it's a representation of how many pathways your club offers. So in short, 1-star clubs are clubs that offer affiliated football and are accredited. So as long as you've got one team or a couple of teams on any pathways, you'd be a 1-star. The 2-star clubs are the clubs that offer a full player pathway on male, female, or disability, and offer provision in one of the remaining 2. Okay. The 3-star clubs are the clubs that offer a full male pathway, a full female pathway, and also disability provision. Okay. It is important to note in here that the male and female pathways are actually judged slightly differently. Just because of the stage we're at in terms of growing the women and girls game, there is less requirements in there, whilst over the next 5 to 10 years that we really fill out that pathway. To be considered a full pathway, there needs to be on the male pathway that open age or 18 plus offer. Okay, so that's where some of our clubs are coming unstuck a little bit, because they don't have that open age adult provision. But I do just want to reiterate again, the stars are not a prestige, they are a representation of the pathways that you offer. So if we do, during revalidation, have to move you down, that's not to say that you're any worse as a club. Being accredited is the key for us, and should be for you. I'm happy to pick up questions around pathways later on if you've got any specific to your club, and I'll also cover how you can fill us in when you submit your revalidation as to we're one team away and that team will be there next year because we have a Wildcats centre about to start, for example. So we'll cover that in more detail. Like I said, you'll get the slide deck and it outlines here all of these, all of the player pathways as they are. So the transition. Right, hold on. I'm just going to have to just get them mute all on. There we go. Sorry about that. So the transition. So this is really relevant to the revalidation. You were all temporarily awarded your star rating when you moved across onto the new framework. So if you were within 3 teams at 3-star, I think 2 teams at 2-star, you were given the one that the FA were believing that you'd be striving towards. Now we're getting to a proper revalidation window. This is where it will begin to settle and you'll find the star rating that is actually representative of where you're at now and aligned to the framework. So if you don't currently meet the pathway requirements, the system is going to flag it when you go through your revalidation. I'll show you that in a moment. So you can insert notes in there, like I said, to say, for example, we don't have a girls offer, but we do have Wildcats and that will grow into a team. That's great information for us to know. It might be we haven't got an open age team at this minute, but our under 18s are staying together next year and will become an open age team for us. Again, that's really good information for us to know. We can override the system. However, we're not going to do it unless there is a clear kind of case that the club itself in next season will be in and around what it needs to be. But again, I'm happy to talk about specifics later on. And so I'm just reading Chris's question. Question on pathways. Can this be introduced in place to another club? Absolutely. So you can link to another club. When I say link, you don't have to sacrifice your identity. You don't have to share in terms of your assets and bank accounts and things. What you can do is create a formal link on the system that says we're linked to that open age club, for example, and we have an agreement that any of our under 18s players that show potential can or will be signposted towards that club. There is a club agreement document that can be signed. Linking on the system is very easy, and if need be, I can show you how to do that at the end of this. Not a problem at all. When it comes to disability provision, You don't necessarily have to have the pathway showing within the system. It might be a rec offer, for example, that is your offer in that pathway. So on to the revalidation itself. So firstly, apologies if you were the unlucky ones that received 28 emails at about 6 o'clock in the morning on the day that the revalidation went live. That problem has been fixed, and it hopefully won't happen again. I will say it has had some positive impacts for us as a county, because I think there was some people that maybe wouldn't have taken any notice of one, but the 27th and 28th email actually got them to ask the question about what is this accreditation all about. So hopefully that we could take a positive from that negative. But again, apologies for those of you that did receive the email that flew out repeatedly throughout that morning. So a reminder of the criteria. The first column here is all around affiliation, so we won't spend too much time on that. That's all the mandatory stuff that every club has to do. Through the club portal, clubs need to achieve or evidence the following criteria: club rules or a constitution, evidence or adopt the relevant club safeguarding policies, evidence or adopt an equality policy, adopt the Football Leadership Diversity Code, adopt the Respect Code of Conduct, have a bank account in your club's name if you have more than 3 teams, provide evidence of last season's accounts if you were in existence for more than a season, and have a disciplinary record in line with nationwide Respect Disciplinary Code. Just note that a lot of them say evidence or adopt. That is because all of those areas there is an FA template on your club portal that you can adopt in less than 10 seconds, and that will tick that criteria off for your club, and I'll be going through that in a moment. It says evidence because if you have your own documents, for example, your own constitution, you can evidence by uploading that into the portal. I'm not sure I agree with evidence or adopt the safeguarding policy. For me, use the template and don't steer clear of that unless you're going to take the text out and put it into a club document. That policy is the most up-to-date and accurate one, and we'd rather you be using that than making your own safeguarding policies within the club. But that's just my preference there on that one. On to the on-pitch stuff. So all adult teams, and please bear in mind you might be a mix, you may be a club with adult and youth. Each team has its own specific. So all adult teams should have a named individual that has completed the introduction to first aid in football. They need to be listed on the team and not the club. So not a club first aider. They need to be down as team first aider, or if they're one of the coaching staff, you don't need to add them again as first aider. The system will read it that they're there. The introduction to first aid in football, I know in charter standard times before, the feedback from adult clubs was it's a nightmare. We've got to get to a course on a Wednesday night or whatever. We're working and we're a 1-team adult club. It's online now. You can do it in your own time. You can dip in and out. It's totally flexible. So it's a lot more accessible for you as adult clubs or clubs with adult teams. Youth teams have to have one coach or manager, and they need to be coach or manager, not assistant, or the system won't read it, with FA level 1 / introduction to coaching football, which is the new level 1 or above. Alongside that, the same coach must have safeguarding children and introduction to first aid. It can't be that I have the level 1, Claire has the safeguarding, and Giuseppe has the first aid. It must be one person holding all 3. And I'll just say it again, if they're listed as the assistant coach, for example, the system will not read that they're there. We need them to be listed in one of the other roles, and you can literally click to switch on that. I want to reiterate here that that's the introduction to coaching football / level 1. The EE Playmaker is not considered a qualified coach. I've used this saying before, and I don't know if it helps, but picture the Playmaker as a level 0.5, and the introduction to coaching football is the level 1. So the Playmaker is kind of that first introductory experience, but the intro or the level 1, that is the qualification that is recognised in terms of accreditation. Off the pitch, we have the club development plan, which we will cover in a little bit more depth in a moment, and is probably the one area I think a lot of you on the call will have probably come on to speak about. You have to confirm that your club meetings take place and make sure that they're recorded. So agreeing that you take minutes for all of them, and demonstrate that decisions made by the club are informed by and communicated to its members, which by agreeing that you do take minutes, you are doing. Okay. Is there any questions just around the criteria, just while I'm here? I'm just reading through the other questions now, if there's anything. Our accounts are part of a wider organisation. Absolutely no problem, Lynette. No problem at all. Is there any questions regarding the criteria? Does anyone need anything clarifying or anything they need to check? You can go in the chat or pop your hand up. I'll give it another 10 seconds, and if not, I'll move on. Okay. So, actually completing the revalidation. I'm hoping that you're all fairly familiar with the club portal. We must be 18 months into using it as a platform, and it started with just our player registration. And as you can see, it's starting to grow, and soon everything is going to be on here. And I have to say, this has changed our lives at the County FA because of how reliable and how quick it is, and just how easy it is to operate and to show you lots of kind of key information. So all of your accreditation needs are found on the dashboard. So on the left-hand side, you click the dashboard and you will see that you will get an accreditation checklist that will come up straight away. Good news, if you're going on there, please feel free to kind of go along on your portal whilst we go through this if you need to. If that box is green, you can get yourself an early night now. You can log out of the meeting because you just need to click submit for renewal and the system will auto revalidate you, and we won't even have to see it or do it. It will just do it. If it's orange, that means you have some outstanding criteria. So overall, on here, you can see that the accreditation checklist is incomplete. And what the system does, it has 4 categories: club, officials, documents, and player pathways. And it will give you a little number on each of those of how many issues there are on that particular area. Claire, can you see my mouse moving or not? Is my mouse on the screen? Yeah. Okay. So this, I don't know how to describe this symbol. That's all. This little symbol here, it's like a, I don't know, like a weird number 8 or 2 kind of things. I don't know what that is. Anyway, if you see one of those on your portal, it means you have a linked club. So what it might mean is your part of the club is good, but the linked club is causing an issue, for example, with a qualification. I have already removed 3 links so far since this opened of clubs where you used to be attached, but actually the adult section has folded, but they were still on the system because we hadn't folded the club. So if you have that issue that you're linked to a club that doesn't exist anymore, it's really easy to just go bang, end link, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But anything that's orange means there's an action. The good thing about the club portal is if you click on the drop down to show more, you'll get more information. And when it comes to DBSs and youth teams with qualified coaches or adult teams with first aid in football, it will tell you which teams for that, and it will tell you which coaches for DBS, so you can click straight in and double check. Right, let's get that shifted along. So within our local landscape, I've pulled off some stats earlier today because it's what I have to do. I have to kind of see where we're at and where we need to focus tonight's event, essentially. So these are the stats that stuck out to me. Number 1, only 18.83% of our clubs have got all their youth teams and qualified coaches boxed off. We've only got 38.64% of our clubs have all the DBS compliance that they need. Only 24.03% of the adult clubs have adult teams of first aid, and the club development plan. So only 14% essentially of the clubs have uploaded their club development plan. So that's where we're going to focus the next kind of 2 or 3 minutes: development plan and the stuff around using the club portal to ensure that you understand your current qualification position. So development plans. Firstly, as you can see in brackets, good news. For those of you who maybe looked at them previously and gone, oh my goodness, that is a big document. Don't worry. If you still want to use that document, not a problem. And I've said all along, make it fit your club. So if there's elements within that that you don't want to use, or we don't do that, that's not a problem. You can delete the slides or leave them blank to return to at a later date. But you will find with the new ones that I'll send out following this meeting, they've been streamlined, especially for our 1-star clubs, and the 2-star one's been sharpened up as well, and a few of the slides taken out to make that an easier process. What I do want to say is, we talked about high standards earlier and how much we value this program. We won't devalue it. So when we talk about development plans, it can't just be a lip service, stick a few words in a box and submit it in. It has to be a working document for you as a club. The reason we have development plans is so you can define kind of who you are and what you're about, because as clubs we need to know that so we can make our decisions moving forward based on that, but also to have a clear plan of where you're going to be moving over the next year, over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years. And that might be sustaining. It might be growing a full girls pathway over the course of the next 10 years. It might be fundraising to get a facility or improve your site. Without clear direction and without clear roles and responsibilities and without clear understanding of your financial position and things like that, that can prove difficult. So we want you to be as sustainable as we can, and we want you to be able to grow in line with your kind of your ambitions. And this is why development plans are so important. So just some top tips, and like I said, I will send them out and I'll scroll through at the end if anyone's got specific questions. So they're working documents. If this is the first time you're doing it, we're taking that into account. These are going to grow and develop over the years. It will not be perfect first time, and don't worry about trying to make it perfect. The document should always give clarity on who you are and what you're about. I spoke to someone the other day and they were splitting theirs up to share with the different parts of the committee. That's a great idea. It stops one person being responsible for doing all the legwork, and also it makes sure that it's not kind of biased by that person's beliefs and thoughts and vision. It's going to be a shared working document, and it could be that you use a committee meeting moving forward to sit down and hammer that out and go, what are we about? What's the ambition? What are we looking to do? Get it down and then blend it into that document. Complete all the sections that are relevant to your club and your club only. Don't tell us about your social media plan if you don't have one. If you don't have one, it does not matter. In the first instance, it might feel like a bit of a heavy piece of work, but moving forward, you'll just be tweaking it. So this is the only time you start from scratch. Every year you might come back and tweak 5% of it. So it's a little bit of pain now, but it should guide what you do over the next few years, and it should be a document that you can manage and tweak. If you already have your own business plan or a development plan, you don't need to use the template. Upload that. If that's what you work off, if that's what your club uses, go for it. We're not saying you have to use the FA's template. It's there for those that need it. So on to the revalidation requirements and the qualifications. So introduction to coaching football. You do not have to wait for your coaches to complete the course before submitting your revalidation. As you may have seen, there was a bit of a dead period, November, December, where there wasn't any courses, and I'll be honest, I started to panic. The FA have resolved that, and they've thrown down a number of courses in January, and that will continue to the end of the season. The minute that your coaches are booked on, you could confirm in a declaration, John Smith is booked on to the January 10th course, and off they go. So you can do that, make the declaration, so you do not have to wait for them to start and finish the course. Because I know that might get a little bit tight against the deadline in April in those situations. So you can make a declaration, and I will show you how to do that in a moment. Just a little tidbit here that we stumbled upon and we felt it needed to be made a little bit more obvious, so we're going to tell you. If you have coaches that are new to the club, so they arrived in September, for example, where are we now, maybe October, and you put them through their safeguarding or first aid or both, if they then book onto the I2CF within 3 months of doing those, the payment made for those courses, you can claim a refund for that, because you are paying within the course cost of the I2CF for the first aid and safeguarding again. So you can go back and claim a refund, but it's got to be within 3 months. You'll do that by emailing education@thefa.com. Unfortunately, we can't do that for you. They are centralised courses, so we can't arrange for that. But I wanted to make you aware that that is an opportunity to get some money back, or to prevent you wasting money, or especially coaches spending the money twice. If you can, do access that refund. As we do have up until April to complete your revalidation, we're going to ask that any coaches that need first aid or safeguarding from scratch, or if they've lapsed, we want you to get them to complete that before submitting. So we don't really want declarations in those situations, because being pretty blunt, there's no real excuse for not doing that. They can jump on and do it in an hour, 90 minutes. So what we don't want a declaration saying that John or Jane Smith are going to do the safeguarding next week. Our challenge would be they can just do it now, and then you can submit it after, because they do it, it will be on their fan the next day. And that's just to try and, like Claire mentioned earlier, keep the compliance as high as we can. Okay, right, this is potentially where it all goes wrong for me tonight. I'm going to click back, get out of there, and jump onto the club portal. Claire, give me the thumbs up when the club portal's loaded, although the accreditation checklist is loading. Yeah, it's loading on my side too. Can you see the accreditation checklist? Awesome. So I'm just going to move about in the portal and just try and show you some of the functionality, and especially linked to the qualifications, talking about getting ahead of expirations and just how we move around here. So this is a fake club that we used to train on about 18 months ago. So as you can see, look, I mentioned earlier the different areas that you can work through. When it comes to adopting the policies that I mentioned earlier, as you can see here, the safeguarding children policy hasn't been done. These can all be managed in the documentation section, which is on my club. So I can click adopt. It will make me view it. I'm not going to do it because it's going to download a PDF and my computer will catch fire if I do that. So you have to view it, and then you click adopt. And once you do that, you'll then notice, it won't because I've not done it, but what you'll get is a completion box. So we need to work through this section to ensure that all of your documents and policies are there. If you have your own, you need to upload them into the different areas. So the club policies, accounts, and other documents. In some instances, you will still need to adopt the policy, but also upload your own to get the box to go green. So if you're ever wondering, I thought I uploaded that, go in and adopt it, and it will box it off for you. A few of them, you're just making declarations. So your club accounts, yes, we do have club accounts. Click save, and that now changes to green. So that's fairly straightforward. If you get anything in terms of the affiliation box there shown as incomplete, it will be because you have a linked club that haven't affiliated this year. So you can manage that over on the My Club section. You can go to linked organisations. There's none here. If there was, I could simply click on it and say cancel link, and that would split the clubs, and then you would no longer be judged on each other's compliance. It would solely be on the club that you're part of. Other things that you may have noticed on recently that have updated on the system is this column on the end here, the team requirements. So it's just a quick way to glance and see which clubs are in check. And you may have noticed that the team grounds bit has come live now. This is really important. Moving forward at affiliation and things like that, you won't be able to progress without that. The beauty of the team grounds bit now is that oh God, I've gone on the wrong thing. How do I get back to that? It uses Pitch Finder. So you'll see here, it uses Pitch Finder. It's not going to let me do it because we're locked out on this one. I don't think there's any teams. Here we go. So yeah, I need to go back on club grounds. So you can add grounds, you can do it, it's just we're locked out on this team by using Pitch Finder. So I don't know how familiar you are with the old way of managing your grounds, but often you were duplicating, or there was 10 versions of one ground. Using Pitch Finder, so if I put Thorncliffe in, I always do that, Thorncliffe, find on Pitch Finder, it'll bring it up, it'll only be the one site, and I can click the site. That's not That does not look like our county. Where is that? Rosington. Give that a go. Search. Technology here. If it eventually loads, it'll bring up Rosington's ground. I can click that, and then what I can do is I can assign teams. All my teams play there, tick, or if it's individuals, I'm getting out there before I make that look any worse, because that was in Greece somewhere. That does work, I assure you, because I did it the other day. So it's really good in terms of being able to just click a team and go, bang, they're at that ground, bang, they play there. Or if you all play at the same site, you can just go do all. But like I said, the system's going to police it moving forward, so it won't let you progress stuff if teams don't have a ground. And that's actually linked back to the grass pitch maintenance. We want to know what pitches are played on, so we know how much money to invest to make them better. So it really, really does help us. On to your officials and getting the best out of this system. So most people will be familiar with the all officials, and this is where you manage your volunteers and your wider club network. Your key officials button, Claire's going to be fuming when she sees this club. Your key officials are your big hitters, your secretary, your chair, your welfare, and your treasurer. So you can easily see that if they're compliant or not, as well as seeing the requirements and any bits and bobs. Is there a suspension there as well? Goodness me. Right then. And then on to the safeguarding and the qualifications. And this is where you can use this to your advantage. It's important to note at all times, for those of you that like to take the paper table to your committee meetings, you can still do that by clicking the export document. And that will run it off, and it will run it off with the colours on to say red, orange, green, like it used to, which is really useful if you go into a meeting and you want to say, hey, black and white, get this sorted. But what you can do is you can use the system to target people. So we can click expiring and leave it broad, and the system is going to bring up every person that's expiring in the next 3 months. That way, so let's find somebody with a DBS. So this person here, these are real people, by the way, so don't take any screenshots of this. So this person here, DBS is expiring. 6 months, is expiring in February. So you know that you can give that person a nudge and say, DBS is coming up. We're going to add you as a DBS applicant on the system, and they can crack straight on with that. Same with safeguarding, and same with your first aid. So just by using that button, you can get ahead of the curve. And again, you can export that and take it as is to your next committee meeting or your next manager's meeting and say, anyone on this table, you are expiring in the next 6 months. We want to see what actions you're going to take to get that sorted. And again, you can also do it by expired. So you can pull up the people that might be causing you a problem in terms of your affiliation or your accreditation, and it will tell you what's expired, and then they can go away and do that. Not everything on here will be mandatory. So if you look on this top person, safeguarding for all is not a mandatory qualification, so it's not an issue. So you can narrow it off by saying, right, we're only interested in your first aid and your safeguarding children, and we haven't got anyone that's expired there, but it will bring them all up in terms of expiring over the next period. Come on, computer. Let me take one off. I don't bring it up. There we go. It brings up everyone that's safeguarding children is expiring. So really, really useful tool for you to get ahead of any qualifications or anything like that. Well, there was one other area that I was going to show you. What is it? Declaration. I can't do a declaration on this. I'll show you the screenshot of a declaration because I can't do it on there. Okay. Nearly through. So actually submitting your revalidation. The declarations that I mentioned earlier. So if you have a youth team that John or Jane Smith are on an intro in January, you can click the drop down, click the yes button, which will bring this box to life, and you can say Claire McCrory is on her introduction to coaching football on January the 8th, booked on, done. And if there's more than one, you can obviously include that. When you hit save, it will then green off the criteria, and I'll show you what the knock-on effect of that is in a minute. And again, when it comes to your player pathways, and I know I've got another question to answer on player pathways I saw it a moment ago, you can put in the details here. If it's an under 18s that are going to convert into your adult provision, you can say our under 18s are staying together and will be playing open football next season, or we haven't got girls provision yet, but we have a Wildcat Centre and we hope to grow an under 8s or 7s team for next season. Really valuable information. Put it in, submit it, and that way we can make a judgment call. What we may do, and I need to speak to a club tomorrow, is we may ring you to ask for a little bit more info just around what's going on around your pathway. But that's the way to make your declarations if you're stuck at that point and you think, well, they're not qualified or we don't have that team yet. Once everything goes green, the button on the top right will come to life and you can submit it. Once submitted, if you have any declarations, it will come up and it will say 1 or 2 or 3 rules pending. So it might be you've got a coach on a course and your pathway is incomplete, but it won't be next year. That comes to us and we'll do a review. If it's all green and all good, you will press the button and the system will just go ding, ding, ding. It will read through it and go, you are revalidated for the 22-23 season. So it can auto validate you if you've got all the criteria in place at the point of submission. We should have a pretty quick turnaround in terms of reviewing. I would say maximum 48 hours for us to have a look at your application when it does come in, if it's not an auto revalidation. And that's the process. So I'm hoping we've kind of covered all the big hitters and all the big key bits of information within there. Whilst you think of some more questions, I'm just going to have a scroll back through because I know I've got a few. Like I said, if you want to put your hand up and ask, or you want some further detail, or you want me to demonstrate something on the portal or physically go on your portal, which I can do, let me know and we can make that happen. Right, I'm just reading Andrew's. Tracy, you don't have access to the dash. Tracy, to get access on the dashboard on the club portal, you need to be listed in one of the key club roles. So you'll need to be sec, treasurer, welfare, any of the assistants along that. If you don't, if you think you should and it's not working, then I need to have a look. But if you're not in those roles yet, the club can add you. It's a 5-second job, even if they just add you as assistant secretary or assistant welfare officer, whatever your role is, that will grant you access as well. And once you're on, it's fairly straightforward to kind of find your feet in there. Right, Aston, Swallow and SJFC have lost an under-21s team and it looked like we'll drop to 2. We have this season created 2 adult teams in the Flourish League and 2 girls, so I don't want to read this out loud. So Andrew, I will look at that outside of the call because there's a lot going on in that one, and I'll have a look and see where it pieces together, and then we can have a chat about if we need to override to leave you at 2. But by having, it appears, your disability provision, although it's not necessarily a full pathway, it might be close to a full pathway on the disability provision, so that might be one way of securing the 2 stars. But like I said earlier, I don't want the stars to be seen as the prestige, but I can thoroughly understand your position in that case, so I'll have a look at that outside because I need to see the pathways in front of me. Claire's boxed that off. Any tips on the DBS applicant? I've added people, but it's not transferring through to their whole game. Yeah, as always, if you do run into issues on DBS applicants, come through to support@sheffieldfa.com. Myself, Giuseppe, Claire, or Ben will pick that up and we'll have a look at it. I'll be honest with you, 9 times out of 10, it's the applicant error. They're doing something wrong, or they're logging into the wrong account, or there's something going on at their side. But of course, with any system, there can be little ticks in there. So just fire in support Sheffield FA and we will always take a look for you. I know we've had a few recently as well that are taking an age to come through, and unfortunately, there's just nothing we can do. The checks are the checks, and that's the way it is. And it has been a bit frustrating recently, but all you can do is try and get them in, not early to the point that you're doing them all the time, but get them in nice and early to make sure there's no risk of a bit of an overlap there. How did you add a pitch? So, Jill, to add pictures, first you need to have a look if it's on Pitch Finder, because the old way of doing it was pulling the data from just a standard database. Pitch Finder is the most accurate thing we've got in this country. It's from the Football Foundation. So if your site isn't on Pitch Finder, then the Football Foundation need to create it for us. So if that isn't showing for you on Pitch Finder, if you just Google that, let me know. give me all the information regarding the site. We contact the foundation and they will add that on there. And you'll also need it on there if you were to ever do any grass pitch maintenance or anything like that, or pitch power. It needs to be there. So we do need to know if there's any pitches that aren't being captured. So if it's not on pitchfinder.org, email in, let me know all the details of the site. Search it by postcode, because the way some people put names in, although it's HSBC, it might be called something else that's making the search not find it when you type it in by that venue. I've been caught out by that a few times. I could do with help, as I don't believe it's shown for myself, and I'm club secretary. Brilliant. Okay. Nicola, what's that in regards to? Sorry.
Sorry, I can't find the actual accreditation when I log on to the actual system.
Are you in the club portal?
Yes.
And so you go to dashboard at the top?
Yeah.
So can you see accreditation checklist written there?
No, I don't know if I'm missing something, but it just brings up notifications and address. It doesn't bring anything else up.
What club is it, sorry?
It's Anston Rangers. I've had all the emails, so I know there's something in situ, but I can't see it.
On yours now, and it's all there for me. Right, we'll have to pick that up outside the call if that's a tech issue. But yeah, I'm on. Are you on your phone or are you on your computer?
I'm on my computer.
Nicola.
Yeah.
It's Hayley, I can get it on.
Oh, there we go. So the welfare officer who's on, she can access it, but I can't.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll get you on. I'll sort it.
Okay, I'm gonna reopen it, because I'm sure there must be some burning questions or some kind of things that we need to know. Is there nothing more or anything else that you need from me or Claire to help with your revalidation? It could be the smallest thing, or it could be something a bit bigger, a bit broader. Please let us know now, because it's the chance for us to answer. I haven't got your name. You've come through as Hollingwood Community.
Hi Tom, it's Neil.
Hi Neil.
I'm not going to revalidate, but I want to come accredited. I mentioned in an email to you a couple of weeks back. Just a couple of questions. The account for the club, at the minute, I just use a second account in my name. Is that viable, or does it have to be in the club's name?
How many teams do you have at the club?
I've only got one.
That's absolutely fine. The recommendation, look, it's fine in terms of we'll accept it. Our recommendation is to always, if there is an account, to try and separate it from a personal one. But I know in your one team adult club kind of scenarios, or one team junior clubs, out of ease, it can just be easier to do it that way. The minute you go over 3 teams, that's where I'd be saying, actually, from an audit point of view and from a kind of best practice, you need to have a centralized account or a separate account that you have, just to prevent, in the unfortunate cases, any fraud or any money disappearing when it's in someone's name. They're the reasons why that's in place. I know it can be difficult at times, and the people on this call will be better placed to tell you which banks they use, because not all of the banks will let you open a kind of community bank account, which you need for your club. So feel free, if you do have one, to chuck it in the chat, because I don't open them, so I don't go and sit in the branch with the banks, but I know that some don't. I know other clubs kind of have used PayPal, but I'm less inclined to recommend doing that, and try and get you kind of your high street bank community account if possible. But at the point of becoming accredited or revalidating, where you're at, that personal account is absolutely fine, and everything I've shown tonight is the same for you in terms of your application process. Instead of revalidating, you're pressing apply, and that's the only difference at this stage. When we get to next year, for those clubs that are on the call, it'll be even easier for you to revalidate because of the work you do now to box everything off. I'd be amazed if any of you need any support in the next season, because it'll be basically all done other than your coach quals. Is there still provisions where coaches can get free level 1? So the Sport England funding that we used to have for that no longer exists, and that was lost during COVID. All of the money was repurposed for the stuff like to keep the clubs going, essentially, during that time. There are bursaries available. You have to, because we don't run the courses, the bursaries don't come via us anymore. They come via England Football Learning. So Follow England Football Learning on all platforms. Sign up for their newsletter and check the page. I know that there's bursaries for UEFA C's at the minute, and they are a bit different to how they were before because anyone can apply. There's no targeting with it, so anyone can apply. So my kind of motto with this is, if you don't ask, you don't get. So all the coaches that are eligible always try to use the bursaries. I can't remember what the commitment was. I think the commitment from my regional meeting last week was 20% of course places are fully funded. I think that was the mark they're at. I did challenge to see if that was 20% in each county, if that makes sense, or if everyone in London's getting it for free and no one else is. I'm not sure, but the commitment is 20% of places, I'm pretty sure, are fully funded. So keep looking for them, and we try to do our best. And I know we tweeted last week about it. We try to do our best to share when they are. But there's just we don't get the heads up that there's a window open or etc. So that can be a bit of a challenge, but just keep your eyes peeled for them. And if there is any funding, we will always go straight out to the people that need it as soon as we can. Jill, club development plan deadline. The whole process of revalidation is April. So it needs to be boxed off and done by then. I'm sure there'll be an emergency window in April if we're struggling. But yeah, you've got up until April to do that development plan. And like I said, it's your first attempt. You might submit it in November, and by April, it's grown 10 pages. Not a problem at all for me. What we need to see is that front foot forward, and to show us that you've got something in place that you're using as a guiding tool for your club. So I really want to reiterate, don't sweat the development plan too much, but we're balancing against, let's not devalue what makes you as accredited clubs. You are better, essentially. I'm going to say you are better than non-accredited clubs. So don't devalue it by just putting in a blank document, which I'm going to be honest with you, I've had quite a lot of. So please try not to do that, because it just means I have to reject it and give you a call, and it gets a bit awkward when I'm saying that's a blank document.
Thank you, Tom.
No problem. Where did you say to go? So I can show you that again. Claire, if I can get out of here, bang. Back onto it. To unlink your club, it's on my club. It's on linked. I'm on the wrong page. Sorry. I'll just let that load up. You go to my club, linked organisations, and then any linked clubs will be here. And there's just a trash can, and you just go cancel the link, and immediately any problems that they were causing your accreditation checklist will disappear. So that one's a really quick fix. Any more questions that I've missed? No. Okay, right, I'm just going to fire through the last few slides, which are just what's coming up, and then I'll stay on at the end if anyone wants to ask me in private. So what's coming up? My colleague Leon, like I said, he was nominated nationally for this last year. The Student Network Programme continues this year. I'll send you the slide deck, click the link, but it's great kind of upskilling opportunities for young people. So they do lots of work across all the different areas of the game. And lots of employability stuff within there. Also, Leon's doing some work around becoming a mental health friendly club. So if you're interested in, it's not an accreditation, I've nearly used that word, which would have been a mistake, but it's a kind of a demonstration that you as a club are a mental health friendly club. Click on that link when I send it out, have a read, contact Leon, and he will discuss and go through that with you. Also, we've got some coach CPDs coming up, or coach support as we like to call it. As always, our commitment is it's free for all coaches in our county. We've got some academy observation sessions coming up. So we're using all, bar one, won't name names, of the pro clubs in our county. They're going to put on a coach observation session. It is targeted for UEFA C and UEFA B coaches. We're at Donny Rovers in next week. Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham, before Christmas, and then we have some more after. So please do share that with your UEFA C, UEFA B coaches, and any level 1 coaches with aspirations to go further. As you can see, the first one's fully booked, but there's 5 more sessions to choose from in that area. The next club update meeting, you may have seen we've knocked them back in terms of the calendar because we wanted to allow the window for this to open before we had this meeting. So club date number 11 is going to be around diversity and inclusion. So back onto the development side. absolute legendary colleague Julie Callaghan will be leading alongside myself and Claire on that. It will be a really insightful night, and there'll be a lot, I can assure you, before we've even started planning it, there'll be a lot of light bulb moments and a lot of moments where you really consider what you are doing within your clubs and how that can impact different people. And until you kind of sit through it, until you consider it, a lot of it, you're essentially blind to it because you've never thought of it yourself. And that's just me speaking from my experiences, going, wow, I've never considered that. Wow, I've never thought of that, and how these little things may impact and affect individuals within your club, as volunteers, as coaches, as players, as parents, and so on. So that one will be really, really worthwhile. And just keep an eye out for the work that Julie's doing. We've done the neurodiversity workshops, we've done the period support workshop training. There's lots of good work going on in that space, and it's all for the benefit of the people that are coming to your club. I think that is the last slide, and I did it with 1 minute to spare. First time ever we've finished on time. Okay, so that's me done in terms of content. Like I said, I'm going to stay on. If you have any questions, if you want me to jump into your portal now and move some bits about, unlink some stuff, confirm to you why something's showing as orange or why something's not working, I can do that for you. That is not a problem. Any lingering questions, put them in the chat, unmute yourself. And final thing, I'm more than happy to sit and do this individually with you as well. So if you need a call, if you need support to get through it, we can arrange a window. We'll have a call one-to-one like this. I can jump into your portal. We can share the screen. We can work on it together. I can support you with your development plan. I can support you in managing the portal. I can support you in managing qualifications. Just send me an email. We'll get a date and a time booked in that fits around you, and we can absolutely work towards securing your revalidation.